Let me start with a moment you probably recognize. You are standing in front of a menu, a pricing page, or a product shelf, telling yourself that this time you will be rational. You will choose only what you need. You will not be manipulated. And then, 3 minutes later, you walk away with the option that costs slightly more than you planned, feeling smart, confident, and somehow responsible. That feeling is not logic. It is relief. Relief that you avoided the wrong choice. And that relief is exactly what most financial decisions are built on. We like to believe we are logical with money. We imagine ourselves comparing features, calculating value, and making optimal decisions. But the truth is much simpler and much more uncomfortable. We compare feelings. We compare identities. We compare regret. And then we spend. Your brain does not ask, "Is this worth the price?" Your brain asks, "Will I feel bad if I do not choose this?" Those are not the same question, and they lead to very different outcomes. Think about the last time you upgraded something: a phone, a flight seat, a hotel room, a subscription. You probably did not upgrade because you truly needed the extra feature. You upgraded because the cheaper option felt like a risk to your self-image. It felt like a version of you that you did not want to be. That is not a flaw. That is human. We evolved to survive by comparison. Better shelter, safer group, stronger tribe. But now that instinct is being used against us in a world full of engineered choices. Let me give you a simple example. You go to a bakery. There is a small cookie for $2, a medium cookie for $3, and a large cookie for $3.20. You buy the large cookie. Not because you wanted more sugar, but because $3.20 feels close to 3. Your brain focuses on the difference, not the total. You feel clever. You also just spent more than you planned. This is how money disappears quietly. Now imagine that same pattern repeated in your phone bill, your streaming services, your cloud storage, your insurance plan, your gym membership, your car options, your apartment size, your coffee size, and your delivery speed. None of these decisions feel dramatic, but together, they form your financial personality. And most people do not realize their financial personality is being designed for them. Your brain does not see value in isolation. It sees contrast. Without contrast, price feels abstract. With contrast, price feels emotional. That is why companies never show you one option. They show you 3. The worst option exists to protect the middle option. The middle option exists to justify the premium option. And the premium option exists to raise your expectations for the future. It is a ladder built out of feelings, not numbers. Let us talk about subscriptions. Almost every service shows you a basic plan, a recommended plan, and a professional plan. The basic plan feels incomplete. The professional plan feels excessive. The recommended plan feels safe. You are not choosing what you want. You are choosing what feels socially acceptable. And that social acceptance is powerful, even when nobody else is watching. You do not want to feel cheap. You do not want to feel irresponsible. You do not want to feel behind. So you upgrade. Not for performance, for comfort. Now let us talk about housing. You walk into a small, dark apartment with noisy neighbors. You immediately feel uncomfortable. Then you walk into a brighter apartment that costs a little more. Suddenly, it feels like a gift. You did not fall in love with the second apartment. You escaped the first one. And escape feels like success. Now let us talk about cars. The base model feels empty. The mid model feels normal. The top model feels justified. You do not buy the top model because of leather seats. You buy it because the base model feels like a compromise. And compromise feels like failure. So you protect yourself with upgrades. Now here is where humor enters the story. Humans are the only species that pays extra money to avoid feeling awkward about a purchase nobody else cares about. You will spend $5 more for larger fries, then complain that you ate too much. You will spend $10 more for faster shipping, then forget you ordered the item. You will spend $20 more for a premium feature, then never use it. But you will feel good about the decision. And that feeling is expensive. We like to say, it is only a little more. But history would look very different if that sentence did not exist. It is only a little more is the most dangerous financial sentence in human language. Because it hides accumulation. It hides repetition. It hides habit. One small upgrade does not hurt. A lifestyle built on upgrades does. Now let us talk about psychology. Your brain is not trying to maximize happiness. It is trying to minimize regret. That is the real driver of human behavior. We are not seeking the best possible outcome. We are avoiding the worst emotional outcome. That is why we choose the option that feels safest relative to the others. Not safest for our bank account, safest for our identity. And once you understand that, money decisions suddenly make sense. You did not buy the expensive phone because it was better. You bought it because the cheaper one felt like a version of yourself you did not want to be. You did not choose the premium plan because you needed it. You chose it because you did not want to feel like you were settling. You did not choose the larger apartment because you needed the space. You chose it because you did not want to feel small. And again, this is not about weakness. This is about design. Your brain decides emotionally. Your logic explains it afterward. That is why smart people are not protected from bad financial habits. They are just better at explaining them. They do not avoid emotional decisions. They justify emotional decisions with intelligent words. Now let us talk about the cost. If you overspend $200 per month because of unnecessary upgrades, that is $2,400 per year. Over 10 years, that is $24,000. Invested conservatively, that becomes far more. But instead, it becomes comfort. Not happiness. Comfort. Temporary emotional relief from comparison. Now imagine what would change if you kept that margin. Not to become rich, but to become calm. Calm is underrated. Calm is waking up without checking your bank account. Calm is choosing work instead of needing work. Calm is being able to say no. Calm is financial oxygen. Now let me tell you about two friends. Both earn the same income. Both live in the same city. Both are smart. Both work hard. One constantly upgrades. New phone, better car, nicer place, faster delivery, premium everything. The other constantly asks one question. Would I still buy this if the other options did not exist? 10 years later, one feels tired. The other feels free. Not because of income, because of discipline. Discipline is not restriction. Discipline is clarity. Now let us talk about how to break the pattern. First, decide before you compare. Set your limit before you see the options. When you decide in front of the menu decides for you. Second, ask yourself if you are paying for value or for emotional safety. Third, remember that a deal is only a deal if it improves your life, not your feeling. Fourth, accept that saying no to upgrades is a form of self-respect. Now let us talk about the future. The future does not belong to people who earn the most. It belongs to people who leak the least. People who protect their margin. People who protect their attention. People who protect their choices. Money is not lost in disasters. It is lost in design. Design of menus. Design of options. Design of comparison. But once you see the design, you regain control. And control is the beginning of freedom. You do not need to become extreme. You do not need to reject comfort. You only need to stop letting comfort replace intention. Now let me leave you with one thought. The next time you are about to upgrade, pause. Not to judge yourself, but to ask yourself one honest question. Am I choosing this because I want it? Or because I am afraid of choosing the other option? That question alone can save you more money than any budgeting app. Let us go deeper into how this shows up in everyday life, because theory only becomes real when it touches experience. Think about grocery stores. You walk into the aisle planning to buy cereal. There is a cheap brand, a known brand, and a premium organic brand. The cheap one feels risky. The premium one feels excessive. The middle one feels safe. You do not check nutrition. You do not compare ingredients. You choose emotional balance. You leave feeling responsible. You also paid more than necessary. Then you repeat this process with bread, yogurt, coffee, chocolate, and snacks. None of these purchases ruin you, but together, they define your financial future. Now think about online shopping. You search for a product. The first result is terrible. The second is acceptable. The third is slightly more expensive but labeled best choice. You click the third, not because you investigated, but because the label removed responsibility from you. Humans love when responsibility is removed. That is why most popular is the most powerful phrase in marketing. It tells your brain, other people already made this decision for you. Now let us talk about education, courses, certifications, coaching programs. There is always a cheap option that looks suspicious, a middle option that feels reasonable, and a premium option that feels like a commitment to your future self. You buy the premium not because it is better, but because it protects your identity as someone who takes growth seriously. You do not want to be the person who chose the cheapest path to improvement. Now let us talk about relationships. Even here, money psychology appears. Dates, restaurants, gifts, vacations. You choose experiences not just to enjoy them, but to signal something about who you are. And again, comparison drives behavior more than desire. We like to believe we are immune to influence. But influence is invisible when it feels like our own idea. Now let us talk about financial confidence. Confidence does not come from earning more. It comes from controlling less. People who feel wealthy are not the ones with the biggest income. They are the ones whose income is not constantly escaping. Every unnecessary upgrade is a hole in your future. But here is the optimistic part. Once you become aware, the game changes. You begin to see menus differently. You begin to see pricing pages as conversations, not offers. You begin to see choices as psychological environments, not neutral information. And once you see that, you stop feeling pressured. You stop rushing. You stop needing to prove anything. You stop buying identity. You start buying purpose. Now let us talk about humor again. Because money without humor becomes anxiety. We are the only species that pays extra for things we do not need, then complains about not having enough money. We will buy a coffee that costs more than our lunch, then wonder why we feel broke. We will pay for 5 streaming services, then say we are saving for the future. We will finance comfort and delay freedom. And we will call it normal. But normal is not neutral. Normal is designed. Now let us talk about one more powerful idea. Freedom is not built from dramatic changes. It is built from repeated awareness. Every time you resist an upgrade, you strengthen your future. Every time you question a recommendation, you protect your margin. Every time you choose intentionally, you weaken manipulation. This is not about becoming perfect. It is about becoming conscious. Now imagine 2 versions of yourself. One version continues living inside comparison. The other version lives inside intention. They earn the same money. They work the same hours. They live in the same world. But one feels lighter. The other feels heavier. Not because of income, because of ownership. Ownership of choices. Ownership of priorities. Ownership of mistakes. Now let us talk about a common excuse. People say, it is not worth worrying about small amounts. But small amounts are the only amounts you control consistently. Big financial changes are rare. Small financial habits are daily. That is where power lives. Now let us talk about what happens when you stop leaking money emotionally. You begin to save without effort. You begin to invest without fear. You begin to plan without stress. You begin to choose without pressure. Your relationship with money becomes calmer. And calm people make better decisions. Now let us talk about the long game. 10 years of intentional choices beats 10 years of emotional upgrades. Every time. The market rewards patience. Life rewards discipline. And peace rewards awareness. Now let me give you one last example. A woman I know once told me she stopped upgrading everything for 1 year. Same phone, same car, same apartment, same subscriptions, same habits. She saved more in that year than in the previous 3 combined. Not because she earned more, because she leaked less. And she said something that stayed with me. I did not feel deprived. I felt relieved. Relief is what intentional money feels like. Not restriction, not punishment. Relief. Now let us return to the core truth. You are not bad with money. You are just human in a system designed to guide humans. But awareness gives you power. And power gives you freedom. And freedom gives you peace. Now before this ends, I want to give you a challenge. For the next 7 days, notice every time you feel the urge to upgrade. Not to judge, not to stop, just to notice. Because noticing changes behavior faster than forcing. And once you notice, you will never see menus the same way again. You will see design. You will see influence. You will see choice. And when you see choice, you regain control. And control is the beginning of financial freedom. Remember, money is not a moral scorecard or a judgment. It is simply a tool that reflects habits more than intentions. Discipline grows slowly through ordinary choices repeated across boring normal days. Freedom is not discovered suddenly, but designed patiently with uncomfortable honesty. Awareness turns invisible influence into visible choices you can finally control. When you pause before choosing, you reclaim power that comparison quietly steals. Slow decisions protect your future faster than emotional reactions ever could. Fast decisions feel good now, but quietly demand payment later from you. Comfort is not freedom. It is simply a temporary pause between pressures. It arrives slowly when you choose intentionally instead of reacting automatically daily. Now,